should I have like
Welcome to Media Path, everybody. I'm Fritz Coleman.
And I am Louise Palanker.
You know, here in the Media Path podcast, we're happy to deliver some early holiday treats to you in the way of entertainment options, fabulous guests, just in case everything else you've ordered for Christmas is stuck in a tanker in Long Beach Harbor. Today, we have the man who produced a couple of my television shows on Channel 4, Barry Kibrick. We broke a little ground in spite of ourselves, and Barry and I are going to turn over a few rocks and unearth some great memories. He went on to produce Rick D's late night talk show, as well as his own really interesting podcast these days, with a big, successful Emmy-winning television show in between. We're going to dive in with Barry in just a few minutes. But first, Weezy, what do you have for us?
Oh, a lot. This week I watched Tik Tik Boom.
I started that.
Okay. Keep going. It's on Netflix. This is Lin-Manuel Miranda's directorial debut from a screenplay by Stephen Levinson, and it is based on the stage musical by Jonathan Larson. It tells a story of gifted and aspiring composer Jonathan Larson toiling and grasping for achievement in his chosen field before it's too late. He obsesses about running out of time, consistently comparing himself to where others were at his age or where others are who chose a more conventional path. We are also prone to assessing ourselves within the framework we collectively create. Marion Ross describes the same compulsion in her autobiography, but Marion's trajectory was to log those hours of stage and screen work in preparation for breakthrough stardom as Mrs. C on Happy Days at the age of 54. We each have our own path, and we should strive to measure our progress against only ourselves. Are we doing better this year? Have we learned? Have we grown? Are we building good bridges, relationships, and processes? When Larson assesses his 30-year-old self in contrast to the progress of Stephen Sondheim at a similar age, he's neglecting the detail that Sondheim met his mentor, Oscar Hammerstein, at the age of 10. That's a key factor. Each path has its own start point. Okay, I'm digressing with my compulsion to dispense life advice, but this is a beautiful piece of work, and not just for 90s theater nerds. It is packed with fantastic music, memorable scenes, and cameos, #no spoilers. Jonathan Larson is played by Andrew Garfield, and you can watch Tik Tik Boom on Netflix.
I've started watching it. What blew me away was how talented Andrew Garfield is, because he played in the movie The Eyes of Tammy Faye, he played Jim Baker. Ooh. And I thought, wow, how's he going to pull this off? It's really good. He's a very skilled actor.
Oh, yeah.
So I can't wait to see the rest of it. I'm old and I fall asleep before the thing.
Okay, and now Fritz, before you introduce our guest, after you do your pick, come back to me because I'm going to talk about what I'm in the middle of watching.
I can't wait to hear that.
It's all
Maybe it'll be impetus for me to start something too.
Yeah.
I want to talk about House of Gucci. This is at the Langley Theater, but it's going to be streaming soon, apparently. You know, I'm not supposed to review, but this was a great movie. And if I'm recommending, right? So I'm saying...
I mean, basically what you and I do, Fritz, is like without even like acknowledging that this is our process, we only talk about things that we're giving a good review.
Yeah.
Because we're recommending.
Okay. So I didn't need to say that. This movie was adapted from the book House of Gucci by journalist Sara Gay Forden. It's the shocking true story of the rise and fall of one of fashion's most famous dynasties, the Guccis. Patrizia Reggiana was an outsider with humble beginnings who married into the Gucci family. Her obsessive ambition was greater than the ambition of the family member she married, Maurizio Gucci. Now, when Patrizia meets Maurizio, he didn't want anything to do with the family business, wanted nothing to do with leather. He had emancipated himself from all things Gucci. Then, as he and Patrizia got more serious and ultimately married, she infects his thinking like the Delta variant and goes back to work at Gucci, which leads to his demise and the demise of the company temporarily. All I'm going to say is Maurizio is assassinated. It's all on public record. Again, it's a true story, but if you're not going to read any of the raft of online stuff, I don't want to give away too much about the plot. He doesn't make it through the end of the movie. But I think her role as Patrizia Gucci is probably going to get Gaga an Oscar nomination, maybe a win. She is so good at playing a woman who is gorgeous and manipulative and not to be denied what she wants. Truly an all-star cast. Adam Driver is Maurizio, excellent as well. Al Pacino plays Maurizio's uncle Aldo Gucci. Jeremy Irons as Rodolfo Gucci. Selma Hayek plays a psychic that Patrizia has befriended and is mysterious and wonderful as a co-conspirator. But the pivotal role is Paolo Gucci, the sad, loser black sheep of the family, played unrecognizably by Jared Leto. If he doesn't get an Oscar, there's no justice on the planet. I'm telling you, he is so good, it's crazy. This movie is about toxic family tension, along with betrayal and revenge and murder. Directed by Ridley Scott. Really good movie.
Goodness. I wonder if Gaga walks away with an Oscar and a free purse.
Oh my God. She looks good. But I mean, there are times in this movie where that switch flicks and she goes a little crazy and really brings it. She's quite talented. She reminds me of Barbra Streisand. You know, we all thought she was a singer. Then when The Funny Girl and all those came out, we said, oh my God, this woman's like three-dimensionally talented.
Same with Cher.
And Cher too. And that's what I saw when I saw this really good movie.
All right, that sounds unbelievable. But
what are you delving into?
Before we introduce our guest, I would like to hint at what I am working on. The Real Story of ABBA, Bright Lights, Dark Shadows by Carl Magnus Palm. Thus far, even more intriguing than the plot of Mamma Mia, although I have not yet encountered an ABBA member with 3 possible fathers. I've also begun watching The Beatles Get Back from Peter Jackson, featuring tons and tons and tons of footage that would decorate any other cutting room floor, but it's the Beatles, and so Ringo ordering mashed potatoes and Yoko quietly sewing her fur coat are endlessly fascinating.
Fantastic.
There's absolutely nothing on the cutting room floor. It's all in the movie.
Wow.
Yeah. And in preparation for next week's guest, Fritz, Cindy Williams wrote a book called Surely I Jest by Cindy Williams.
And have you started reading it?
No, I downloaded it, and that's the first step.
I can't wait to talk to her.
Yeah.
You know, we've had a couple of the people from Happy Days and people under the Gary Marshall umbrella, and every single one of those people just says that it was the pivotal time in their life getting to work for him. So I'm looking forward to talking to her.
Yes.
All right, I'm so happy to have this man who's been a part of my life for many years, Barry Kibrick. He's a host and a producer of a much-awarded television and podcast content series. He hosted his own show on PBS stations all around the country for 25 years. It was called Between the Lines with Barry Kibrick. The show won 3 Emmy Awards. He interviewed the most famous authors in the world and turned the show into a multimedia enterprise and has brought it into the 21st century as a podcast by the same name, Between the Lines with Barry Kibrick. He chatted with colorful global players like Queen Noor of Jordan and Robert Reich, the Secretary of Labor of the Clinton administration, Ron Howard, Ann Rice of Lestat vampire fame, Walter Mosley, Ray Bradbury, Elmore Leonard, and James Elroy, probably the four-legged stool of American letters right there. It's really a who's who. Really does a good job. But I think he would probably agree that his greatest accomplishment, which he could only consider as a gift to himself and his family, was to come to Channel 4 in Los Angeles in 1984 and produce 2, but actually 3, when you add What a Week. In your lengthy bio, you left out What a Week.
I forgot What a Week.
Which is the precursor to John Oliver. I think we did just as good a job.
Yes.
Anyway, on the Fritz, It's Fritz, which followed Saturday Night Live, and What a Week, which was a week in review where we lampooned the news, which was, honest to God, the best 2 or 3 years of my career. Barry, nice to have you.
Nice to be here, guys. I've been watching and listening to you guys, and I beg to come. So it's why I wanted to be here, and I'm so grateful.
We love your podcast, too.
Yeah.
You really, we're going to get into it, but you drill down. I mean, your John Densmore interview was really interesting. I mean, you're talking to one of the iconic rock drummers about quantum physics. I thought, wow. We'll never do that on our podcast. Anyway,
he brought it up, actually.
No, it was great.
You know, he heard my podcast with Nobel laureate Frank Wilczek, and that's what made him want to talk about it.
It was impressive. I'll just start him off with a question because I want to dig way back in his career because you had a really interesting start.
But before you do, I want to say something because you talked about Gucci. My wife, who is sitting across from us, was when we met the import supervisor for all of Gucci. Knows all of the people you talked about in that movie. And just for the record, I thought I'd share that with our audience.
And has a free purse.
No, we did get a free piece of luggage when we got married. That was it.
Wow. Oh, God, I wish I knew that. We would have included you in that in my review. Have you seen the movie?
No.
Well,
No,
no,
we're
it's
waiting.
mandatory that you see it now.
Oh, yeah, we plan to.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're going to be able to pick it apart. The guy...
I just don't know. You know, I know the names, but I don't know all the dirt, and I don't know. I didn't.
Wow, it's really a fascinating story. But there's a character in the movie, Tom Ford, who is the Tom Ford who came and saved Gucci once they went bankrupt. And, you know, he picked it apart as a review, but you can't look at it that way because it's a movie. And, you know, it's Ridley Scott. It's not going to be reality completely. Anyway, wow.
I'll be interested to see because, you know, they used to come from Italy and into
Yeah. Oh, it's like a master class in acting, the whole movie. So let me just ask you one question about the Iditarod, and then we'll include Weezy in the conversation. You started your career in Anchorage, Alaska, as an anchor person and assistant news director.
Right.
And you covered the oddest, yet one of the most popular sporting events on the planet, the Iditarod race, which is a 1,400-mile dog sled competition, and it was covered by the wide world of sports. Talk about that.
Yeah, well, what happened was I had a great news director named John Valentine who just tell you the story about how I even got involved. It was one of those things, Fritz, where I was visiting my dad who transferred up to Anchorage to work, and I decided, he asked me, what did I want to do? And I said, I want to be in television. He says, well, here you're in Alaska. Maybe this will happen here. And I said, surely didn't happen in New York or New Jersey. So I went up to, literally drove up the Seward Highway. There was a building. It said ABC on a big scaffold, KIMO TV. Walked in, knocked on the door. I went on the air that night as the sportscaster.
It's a good thing you got there when you did.
And as I say, this guy, John Valentine, I'll give you
They wouldn't have had a sportscast if they didn't show up.
This guy,
They were
John
vamping for
Valentine,
hours.
Let me just say, as I describe him, he makes Clint Eastwood look like Woody Allen.
Wow.
This
That's
was
quite a
the
sentence.
handsomest macho man on the planet. And in fact, all I did was talk to the receptionist to get the gig. And I said, listen, I'm interested in working. I'll sweep the floors. I'll I'll carry the cable, whatever it is. I'll do it all. It doesn't matter. And I hear from the back, and he goes, asshole, get in here. And I say to the woman, I said, I would never let anyone talk like that to you if I were you. And she goes, he's not talking to me that way. I go, well, I don't mind him talking to me that way.
That's great.
Walked into the room. He said, what's your name? I said, Barry Kibrick. We had no sports. I said, well, I played football. I was the president of my varsity club. Yeah, I know sports. He says, you want to go on the air tonight? I said, yeah.
That's the way to do it, really.
And he walked me into the room, went up to the person who was the sportscaster, said, you're fired. He's hired, went on the air. The main reason was he believed my New York accent would give a certain air of sophistication to the station because...
Scare the crap out of the Eskimos. But...
Well, no. I had my biggest fans were the Aleutians and the...
But that's how you start. You don't have to sweat every mistake you make.
Don't. And then I went, and it was his idea. He says, no one ever covered this from start to finish. You want to do it? I said, sure. And literally, we covered the Iditarod race from start to finish. Wide World of Sports, we were an ABC affiliate. They heard about this going from start to finish, and they sent up a team, and they caught the ending. And then what happened was, make a long story short, the ending they couldn't capture because they didn't realize that the lights went out at 11, and it turned 12 o'clock. They had all these major cranes up there getting ready to shoot the finish line. We had a broken harness, so we couldn't even, and they wouldn't give us a tripod. So I called my news director, and he said, don't worry, they'll get screwed. And I said, why? He says, wait till the lights go out. You'll be the only one on the ground. And sure enough, they ended up having to pay for us to get the footage. And my John Valentine said, oh, you're going to pay. We were able to buy 3 cameras with what he charged us because they couldn't get the finish of the race.
What a cool guy
to
learn from.
You got it. No, you're on a dog sled this whole time?
No, I was in I had to fly in a helicopter.
Okay.
And this was kind of strange, to get the shake out of the camera, they would roll me down on the helicopter out, so I would dangle, and I would shoot, and they would roll me back up, and I would get back in, and I couldn't press the trigger with the gloves on, so I took it off. And I come back up into the helicopter, and I said, geez, how could you break your finger by just pressing the camera? He goes, my God, why'd you take your glove off? I said, I couldn't fit it in the little hole there. And he said, you got frostbite. And that's, but we covered the race, and we sold ABC.
All I can say is thank God you covered it before global warming. It's a lot more boring now as a race.
It's a shorter race.
Right.
They portage over a lot of grass. Wow, that's a story. Well, it just shows that you're that guy who just says, give me a chance, I'm going for it. Open a door, you're plowing.
That's exactly what we did with our TV show.
And
that's exactly what we did do.
That's one of the keys to success. Is you just look for opportunities, and then when you find them, you don't hesitate. You just go.
Every gig I ever had, I never used a resume. Never once has anyone seen a resume of mine. It was always a knock on the door, put my foot in there and let them slam it, and then insist that I get an opportunity. And that's how it's been.
So your TV show was on the air for 25 years on many markets.
Yeah, we were in every market.
Wow.
But not on all the primary stations. So
No.
like in Los Angeles, rather than being on KCET, we were on KLCS. So we were in many of our markets, we were in what they would call their second tier PBS station, some their first tier, but in many we were also on their second tier. But we were in every market.
Right.
Who were a couple of your best interviews? People whose experience with you stuck with you?
I will tell you that we did over 1,000 conversations. And what I think, rather than say what was the best, because it's hard, I'll tell you, though, the interesting people that I thought made an impression on me, because they had an aura about them. One of them was Richie Havens.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Richie Havens, when you meet him, he has a presence about him. You talked about John Densmore. I had him on my show. He has a presence about him. One in particular, a fellow that you never would have heard of, was John O'Donohue. He was a former Catholic theologian who left the church and became a poet. And his poetry and his sense of spirit and soul was so powerful that when he was sitting in the green room, again, there was like something around
that
him.
it factor. Yeah.
That it factor.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, when he died at a very young age, and we were invited because we really loved each other in a certain way, and he came, and I was invited to his little private home that was held in Mike Farrell's house. You know, Mike Farrell from MASH.
Yeah, right.
And Steven Spielberg was there. There were a lot of people influenced by his words. And if I can recommend, there's a book called Between. In fact, it was after my show he came up with this title, I thought, but The Space Between Us. And it is a beautiful book of blessings that you give to other humans. Not in service of God, but to other humans. So I would say that those two particular people, and as I said, John Densmore, there were a few others, but they had an aura about them. Baba Ramdas, another gentleman that had an aura, Be Here Now, and he had also that little je ne sais quoi that makes you a little special.
Who was a nightmare? Like pulling teeth.
I'm not going to mention the name. I just won't do it because I don't know if they're alive, but I'll tell you, you may get it, okay?
Okay.
It was someone who claimed to be a psychic, okay? Claimed to be a psychic, and I didn't want her on the show because I didn't believe in any of that, but yet she wrote a book that was very spiritual.
Is it Shirley MacLaine?
I'm not going to say, but it wasn't, okay? It was not.
No, that was a good guess.
Good guess, but and I said to her, I said, listen, if you want to do this, just whatever you do, don't do any psychic mumbo jumbo. And because I know how to do that. I was a producer, and we knew that there was a trick to do that. So she goes, oh, promise, I promise. I said, okay, great. She sits down, and before I ask a question, she goes, I see an R. And I said, geez, you don't see no R. I'm telling you, I know how this is done. She goes, I see an M. Yes, now there's an M, of course. So that was the nightmare one. Man. And then a strange one, two of them actually. One was supposed to be with Pete Rose. And this I'll say because I'm not angry at Pete, but Pete, rather than coming, sends the co-author of the book after I'm promised that Pete's coming. And the guy sits down and he says, well, Pete sent you a videotape. I says, what do you mean? He said, and he sends a videotape, a VHS tape, shot out of frame, all blurry, that says, hey, Bar, I'm glad I could be here with you today. Talk to so-and-so. And I said, nah, this ain't going to work, fellas.
Wow.
So
that's why he's not in the Hall of Fame.
You know, again, I don't, because I kind of hope he would get in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. So I don't want to be, I'm not going to be
little. That was a cheeseball thing to do, man.
That was a cheeseball thing to do, but maybe he was taken over by this power of the author that he wrote the book with. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, okay? I'm not going to be an anti-Pete Rose guy.
Well, Barry, I noticed on your YouTube channel that one of the most popular videos that you've got up there is called The Art of Seduction.
Oh, yeah. Robert Greene was just on the show last week again.
Yes. So this guy has, I think people are just kind of seduced by that title. And describe what it is that he that he recommends or that he advises or what he thinks are important human values that take the creepiness out of the word seduction.
Well, first of all, he's most famous for a book called The 48 Laws of Power.
Okay.
And he was on the show just yesterday. Literally yesterday. We taped his new book called The Daily Laws, which is beautiful. You're seeing Robert Greene, I can tell there. Mm-hmm. By the way, one of the key things he wants everyone to know, and if you read the book, it's truly about seduction, not so much like how do I get in your pants when you're at the bar. This is a true strategic book on how to use the art of seduction. And the bottom line is how he says it's the ability to make the person you're with feel the wonder of being a child. So it's what he's doing when he studies seduction. He's not studying it as a way of
romantic
getting
seduction. It could be getting a job or just trying to convince somebody to be your friend.
And how to get things ahead. Because when he wrote the Laws of Power, most of that was what we'll call of a macho kind of bent. And he thought that women had as much power as men. And even if it was using a seductive form, and then he says it's not sexist because he gives you men that use the seductive power, and like a Rudolph Valentino and things like that. And but it's seduction, and it's not, as I said, it's about a way of getting power. That's his specialty, is he studies power, and he studies it on all levels, and he's brilliant. And he's just wonderful if you ever have an opportunity. Yeah.
All your episodes are great. You've got a wide range of personalities on there.
Yeah, you had a really nice conversation with Ron and Clint Howard, who have written a book together about their childhood.
They were so gracious. Ron and I had Ron on my show years ago, and I had his wife, Cheryl. His wife, Cheryl, is a brilliant writer. And really, they have a wonderful relationship. And when we had Cheryl on, she saw my wife and my relationship, and we bonded. So I've been in touch with Ron all these years, and he's truly one of those guys that they say is the nicest guy in showbiz. And he really is.
And if you knew his dad, and I knew his dad because his dad would do the same thing I do and same thing lots of old men in Toluca Lake do. They go sit at the counter at Patty's restaurant and look like they're homeless. And his father used to do that, and I would talk to him all the time. He was the nicest man.
Talk about seduction. That is hot.
You know what? But he was just a real human being, and he went out of his way to raise his sons as real people with their feet on the ground, just a Burbankian, you know?
Yep. And that's what the book's about.
Yeah.
It's really about his dad, Rance Howard. Mm-hmm. And it's all about how he looked after the boys and how he really also, you're amazed at when you really get to know it. He did things for them. I'll give you a quick example that's in the book. He would pull Andy Griffith aside and say, I don't think Ron should say it the way you're thinking he should do this. And he goes, who you talk? But he wouldn't do it in that kind of a manner. He had a je ne sais quoi about him.
He had a seductive talent.
Yes, he did. And he was able to change the way they viewed Ron in everything that he was in as a child. And it really helped Ron's career in many ways. And by the way, virtually all of the money, you hear about stuff like with Britney Spears and things like that, virtually all of the money, except for them driving a 12-year-old beat-up car, went to the kids. The parents kept nothing, not even a small percentage, just enough to pay the bills. Father worked to get money, and they never took the money from either
He gave his
boy.
dad shots in his films and stuff, and it was cool.
Yeah, and his brother, too. Clint plays in a lot of his
I see
films.
Clint. Clint and I are Starbucks addicts, and I see him at the Pass Avenue Starbucks.
Yeah, they were both very charming. It was really a lot of fun.
That's really, really.
And then you had Marion on your show, right?
We did. We're working our way through the cast. We we had Henry. Henry's a friend of Fritz and I from way back. And then we had Anson, and then we had Marion. So.
And now you say you're getting. Can I say Cindy? Is that?
Oh yeah. So Cindy Williams will be here next week's spinoff. And, we'll have Scott Baio. Sure, we'll talk.
Why
about
not?
him. Why not? So.
Well, before we start talking about the Fritz extravaganza, I want to ask you about one more thing, because you broke ground in a couple of other areas. You also developed the first interactive transactional TV show on the Sci-Fi Channel. What was that about?
That was crazy. After I did the Studio 59, when we took over the Rick D show at ABC, I did. I have to admit, I will say, I behaved in a way that people thought was inappropriate. It wasn't. By that, I don't mean any sexual inappropriation or anything like that. But because I was working at ABC, I had to fire Rick Dees.
Okay, I'm kind of like living vicariously through you because he fired me twice.
Okay, and by doing that, I had to fire his agency, which was William Morris, and I had to fire his management firm, which was Gallen and Morey.
Oh my goodness!
So you just lopped off the top of the
Lopped
show.
off the top of it, and I couldn't get a job if your life depended on it. You know, it was just, there was nobody would return a call, nobody would do anything. And then Phil Buth, who is that we both know, I called him up and he said, "So you need a gig?" I said, "Phil, I need a gig." And he turned me on to this fellow, Earl Greenberg, who ran a company called Transactional Media. And he was a big player at NBC at one time. And they had, he was an infomercial guru guy. Did all these things with Susan White, I forgot her name, with the short hair, and did a whole bunch of different things. Yes.
Oh,
and
wow, Dina.
And did a whole bunch of things like that. And what the Sci-Fi Channel asked us to create an interactive selling show. So we would have, let me give you an example. So we would have Scotty from Star Trek on the show, okay? And Scotty would bring a chair that he was selling,
Right.
which had his name on the back.
Okay.
And then we would talk with Scotty and we would sell his chair and we would do all these different things. So we'd have, like, if you had Shatner on the show, we would sell his books. If you had this guy, we would sell all the different things that would come on the show. And I'll never forget a funny...
The channel would take a piece, and then he would give
Give
something.
So it was like a
It was-
hybrid talk show shopping network.
Exactly.
Okay.
It was a hybrid talk show shopping network. And the funniest thing was we had a buyer and this comes right out of a joke book practically because he was the buyer and he found out that in Malaysia, something like that, they were actually created Star Trek stamps. And we had, again, another Star Trekkie, and I forgot who it might have been, Officer Hulu. I don't remember who the heck it was. But we had somebody else on the show, and we were then selling, and these Star Trek stamps flew out of there like you could believe. But the problem was when he started to calculate, he put one extra zero at the end. Like, you know how you get confused with Italian money? Okay. Well, Malaysian money, I think, has like $1 billion is 10 cents.
Right.
You know what
It's
I mean?
like their currency is pennies.
It's pennies,
Yeah.
exactly. And so I'll never forget, every time we sold, we were losing money. And we couldn't pull it off the air. Sci-Fi Channel didn't give a crap, you know. But we couldn't pull it off the air. And his response was, "Don't worry, we'll make it up in volume." And I said, it's just
7
like
billion stamps later.
So it's basically, you know,
You guys are still printing stamps, right?
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
All right, let's talk about our experience. You did 3 shows with me on the Fritz, What a Week, which was a retrospective. But the one that I really liked, which I thought was cutting edge, was It's Fritz, which was an hour variety show that followed Saturday Night Live for a couple of years. I did a monologue. We had comedians and we had bands and we had sketches. And it was so much fun. It's the classic thing where you look back and understand how much fun you had when you're way too old to appreciate it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I look back, it was unbelievable. Talk about some of the people that we had on there, including Adam Sandler in his first television appearance.
And not only first television appearance, but obviously Saturday Night Live saw him on our show.
Yeah.
And do you know that character, remember?
Yeah.
Eats Fritz.
I know.
Fritz. That became his character in the Waterboy
It was
film.
it was so irritating.
It was so. That's what I thought. It was so irritating. But he was, and I didn't even want him on
We'd
the
all
show
sit
at
around and
first.
Bob Levitan booked him, and we said, this guy, well, he's wasting our time here.
But he becomes.
In the
this,
meantime, 3 weeks later, he's on Saturday Night Live.
Yes, and he becomes this major. You know who else we had on that? We didn't discover him, but who was Sam Kinison? Remember?
I'll
Such
tell you a
great
story about
guy.
Sam. We had Sam, we had Jim Carrey, we had David Spade as comics. But Sam Kinison, another interesting figure that people misunderstood. He scared people because of his...
He was loud.
Well, he was loud. When I first met him, he was the manager of the Westwood Comedy Store, and nobody got Sam Kinison. So at the end of the night, when he wanted to clear out the room, he would go up on stage and do a set, and the audience would run for the doors because they were so freaked out. But he came to our show, and he was knee deep in his cocaine addiction at that point. Hadn't been to sleep in like 4 days and smelled awful. But he brought me a gift. And at the Comedy Store, I don't know if she still did this when you worked there, Weezy, but Mitzi Shore, the owner of the Comedy Store, used to handwrite the lineup of the comics and thumbtack it to the door, and that was like the iconic thing, her handwriting with your name on it. So he brought me a list of performers from the Comedy Store, and on this rundown were Howie Mandel, Andrew Dice Clay, Sam Kinison, and Fritz Coleman. I said, okay, who is the lowest on the tax bracket on this whole thing now? It's got to be Fritz Coleman. And I thought, and I framed it, and it's in my house now. But it was such a great gift. He had taken it and gave it to me.
Let me tell you how great he really was, because all I knew, I met him that one time on your show. I had to do I got the opportunity to do a show for Comedy Central, and I'm not going to talk into that because, again, that's another story that'll get me in trouble.
Comedy Central
but
story.
Make a long story short, they said, you got to get me somebody big. And I said, okay, I'll see if I can reach Sam Kinison. Sam Kinison, for no money, came down, did the show, left, and just thanked us for giving him the opportunity. Didn't charge us a dime. It was low budget. We were funding it ourselves. The pilot got picked up, but Sam was just beautiful like that. He was such a beautiful soul.
I'm still friends with his brother Bill, who, with his wife, owned a theater in Upland. A beautiful. They bought this old movie theater and refurbished it and made it a performance space. And I did all my shows out there. It's a really cool space. And you feel like you're talking to Sam because he looks like him. He's a little bit older, but they're both evangelical ministers. And that's where Sam learned his chops. All that stage presence and yelling and screaming he used to preach on Sundays that way, except plug in Bible verses instead of,
Curse words.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So he was interesting. But we gave a lot of people their first pop on television.
MC Hammer.
MC Hammer.
The Proclaimers. I walked 500
Yeah, that's
miles.
right. Yeah. And we
that-
had big bands. We had the Commodores. We had the Edgar Winter Band on there. But comedically, what we backed into, not realizing it was going to be successful, but it turned out to be successful, was we allowed stand-ups to come on and flesh out a sketch based on one of their successful stand-up pieces. And so the punchline worked. You knew the bit was going to work. We just fleshed it out, and we had some hysterical. John Mendoza in that funeral sketch.
We did some when you
Ron
were tights as
Richards?
Ron Richards,
Who won an
That was
Emmy
the-
for writing on Saturday Night Live.
That was the one that wasn't he did the Robin Hood
the Robin
one.
Hood sketch,
Yes,
Men
that
in
was
Tights. Oh,
Men
my
in
God.
Tights with you, and we had so many of them that did great bits that we would then work. Larry Miller, remember, as the doctor, he had, and we took their bits and then we built
a sketch
around it.
Yeah.
And it really was.
And it was great because you knew it was going to work. They've been doing these bits and clubs for years, but it just had many characters in it.
Okay, so I have a question for the two of you. Where do those shows exist? Who owns them, and could we put them up on YouTube for everyone to enjoy?
In Barry's garage.
No, I actually do have all the masters. But no, I gave them to Bob Levitan because he then made DVDs of it. But NBC owns them. So I didn't think, unless you've got some pull with KNBC and you want to try it.
There was a period of time. You remember when David Letterman went on E? They were doing reruns of David Letterman on E. And our general manager had some inquiries about putting our show on E. The problem was we didn't do enough episodes. We had to have like 65 episodes, and we only had 25 or something. But so we didn't get to do it.
So, I have them, or at least Bob Levitan has the masters, but I have the DVDs.
So you know about rights. If it's our show and it's already broadcast, could we put them up on YouTube without NBC's permission?
I think we get them digitized, we put them up, and we wait to be told to take them down.
That's interesting.
No one's going to take us to court. No one's going to spend money on that.
Now, would we have to get permission from some of the stars who were on there to use their likeness or anything like that?
No,
not for
because
YouTube.
They already signed.
We won't be making money. It's just sharing them with the world.
It's just for fun.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of stuff that goes up.
Oh, man. People still talk to me about that.
Oh.
You know. And another success we backed into, Weezy, was, the representation of new bands. We're looking for ways to get them exposure and give them television experience. So we had these record companies that would call, and I don't know who was booking the bands, Levitan or somebody was booking the bands, but we started to get these bands that were just on the verge of breaking, like Dramarama, Mary's Danish, Stevie Salis Color Code. These are all bands that went on to have national reputations, but they needed TV exposure for themselves, and we gave them their first pop.
Well, though, I have a little Dramarama story that goes right in with that. Okay. I was presented two bands, Dramarama by Bob and the Crew, and another band, and they said, which one do you prefer? And I loved that Dramarama song, right? Last Cigarette, I think it was called. So we didn't have the Red Hot Chili Peppers, just so you know.
Well, no, I remember that. We voted on that. We voted on that. You asked me Bob asked me, Bob was one of our producers and bookers. He asked me his opinion. He said, I think Red Hot Chili would be too big for the room. We did it on Stage 5 at NBC, which was slightly bigger than this room. And they would have blown the roof off the place. And I thought, I don't know, are they too loud to be in the studio?
That's what I thought too. And I said, I like Dramarama.
I know. I know. Well,
I'm glad I'm not the only. I've been bearing the guilt all this time that I'm the one that screwed us out of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Now it's you. Good.
If they were the Red Hot Chili Peppers of now, there would have been no argument.
All right, let's talk for a moment, Barry, about how you continue to build more career pathways in a changing media landscape and how you advise for people to similarly move their careers forward.
I think if you do everything, no matter what it is, with enthusiasm and passion, and you don't stop, you can't fail. I still don't make money really on the show, but you do it because you want to, and you love to be creative. You love to, and I think this would hold true if you were an attorney, if you were an accountant. If you do your thing with enthusiasm, you can see pathways opening up. And in this case, I was resistant to do podcasting. I came on very late to the scene. I think I only have 12 original podcasts done. And but my son said, Dad, you got to. And at the time, but COVID came in, and the studio, we couldn't do anything anymore. So it was, when one door closes, another always opens up. And if you keep your eyes open for that, you'll be okay. And so I really just recommend that if you love what you want to do, and you do it, and you just put it out there. And, if it clicks, it clicks. And if it doesn't click, it doesn't click. You could always stop and try something else, or you can still do it if you enjoy it. So that's how I do it. Fortunately, because of the rep I had from my show on PBS, I'm able to still get great guests all the time, which sometimes people can't really do. They can't get the kind of caliber guests that I happen to get on my show. But outside of that, again, that's because the door closed and I just opened up another one. So I think that's the key. Do everything you can, no matter what it is, with enthusiasm. Keep your eyes open. And you know what? Also, and this is, I learned this from John Densmore and Robert Greene, live your life with wonder. If you live your life with wonder and open yourself up to the miracles around you, you'll be able to pick one of them out. And,
I give advice, which is sort of an adjunct to what you're saying, to young interns at NBC when I was still employed. And it's pursue your passion with enthusiasm, because that enthusiasm will become infectious, particularly for people who are watching you to see if they want to give you an opportunity. But also, I say the key to your success is not necessarily talent, but it's drive, and it works well with others. I say if you are somebody that people enjoy working with, because it's such a small business, later on in the next project, people will remember it being a pleasant experience having you on board, and you'll get hired. So works well with others is at least 50% of the success of somebody in the entertainment business.
I heard a great line too, Louise, where the classic line is, it's not what you know, it's who you know. But I heard it flipped a little bit, and it was, it's not what you know, it's who knows what you know. And that's kind of an interesting thing. If people, when my company hit that roadblock after ABC, the station at KLCS TV saw my work in Chicago. They knew that I was working with no money, and I made it look good. And that's when they said, "Can you do that for us?" And I said, "Sure, I can do it," because they knew what I could do, and that's another big thing. And you don't want to do it by publicizing yourself. You want to let the work be what stands out, not your publicity about the work.
Well, we did that with our show. It's Fritz was $30,000 a week. So, am I right? That's the ballpark.
I think, but not above. Part of that
not above the line.
I was going to say it only cost them about $10,000.
No, because we were crossing over news crews and everything. We have to stop the comedy now because there's a helicopter chase.
Exactly. Yeah. But so it wasn't really. It was a little lower.
But what I wanted to say was, because I've sat back and watched this guy's career with astonishment, and that is Byron Allen actually blew us out of our gig, because Byron Allen created this business model that has been enormously successful to him. Even though the shows he creates are just, they're okay, but he came in with this business model, and my boss told me this story. He said, "This is why I have to take your show off the air." Byron Allen comes in and says, "I will give you my show for free. All I'm asking is that you would air 3 Ford 30-second spots in the middle of that hour, and the rest you can have. You can sell your own spots, and I won't charge you a dime for the show." So Byron Allen makes his money with Ford or whatever the Palmolive or whoever the advertiser was. And that's the one that kills me. He said, I can't afford to pass up this opportunity. John Rohrbeck told me, and I thought, wow. And so now Byron's a billionaire, and he owns movie companies and the Weather Channel and everything else. So apparently it worked out well for him.
Yes, and I tried it, and I made no money. So it's, again, it's just the way it is. I did that with Between the Lines. I said, "Listen, I'll give you the show for free, and I'll get the sponsors."
And that's how Premier Radio operates.
Yeah, but I didn't get sponsors. So just
but that's because you were on PBS, so there's a diminished audience.
Yes.
So it's really
you had to go out and find underwriters.
And boy, that was
it's a nightmare. Right?
It was for me. It was, and I never had a staff to really compliment. So what I did, here's something I think, if you talk about advice, Louise, you asked, and I said, one thing I give advice is, I did something was I hired a lot of people on your show, and I did forever, that I liked, that I wanted to work with, and unfortunately were kind of like me. We had the same talents. What I should have hired was businessmen, accountants, all sorts of different people who could surround me with the things that I didn't have, salesmen, things like that. that's where if I can give somebody advice from what I didn't do, although I'm not complaining, my life still turned out wonderfully, but it's just, I didn't do that. So Byron created a business first and then a show.
And then he became irritating, so people
first.
couldn't turn him down.
Yes,
right.
And we concentrated more in our lives, by the way, in all of our lives. I know that you, with your stand-up and you with the work that I saw you do even to teenagers, you give advice with Weezy.
Well, nothing ever made any money after Premiere. Premiere was a miracle where I tumbled into people who were good at business.
Right.
I was the creative energy, but I just kind of collided with them at Kiss FM when I was writing for Rick Dees. That was a miracle. I wouldn't have figured that out on my own, but it's exactly what you're describing, where there were people who are strong where I am weak. And we were just a magical...
And that perfectly describes the conundrum that Barry and I were in at Channel 4. Had we had somebody that knew the syndication business or knew how to take this thing to the next level, who said, okay, we've only done 24, but if we could do another year's worth and sell 60 episodes to E! Entertainment, then we have a national platform. But there was just nobody around that had that experience. And I'm just a goofy weatherman. What do I know? And so I always sort of lamented that we didn't have a mentor to sort of guide us through that process.
I think that's, and I found that in almost everything I've done is I charge ahead and ask questions later.
Yeah.
But there's something fun about that too. That's why I'm saying I don't want to put that down because, it's kind of an exciting way to live. I think Ray Bradbury told me this when he was on my show, and you talk about one of the pillars of literature. And he said, sometimes I just jump and then I build my parachute on the way down.
Oh my goodness.
And that's what I kind of find that I do. I jump and then I figure out how I'm going to land. And it's supposed to be the other way around. And most financially successful people do it the other way around. But I don't know if happier people do it the other way around.
That's interesting.
Also, it could be that the innovators do it the way you're doing it. You're forced to innovate when you need a parachute in midair.
Exactly.
And you're the one that's guiding the way for other people, inspiring other people that maybe will kind of align themselves early in life with like a Steve Wozniak and a Steve Jobs kind of a combo, where there's someone that's just like gifted at business and someone who's just a genius, and they mash up and history is made. But I want to talk to you for a moment about your interviewing technique, because I did find it very engaging that you immediately get to the heart of what matters to the people that you're talking to. And then I read an article that said you don't actually ask any questions. You just make statements. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I don't ask you. I won't be asking you guys questions. You're going to be on the show in a couple of days, unless, by the way, I don't. It's not that I don't ask questions. If a question comes up endemically within the conversation, sure. But for the most part, it's the opposite of what Larry King did. Larry King always believed that he wanted to be like his audience and never read the book and just make believe he didn't know anything. And I thought that seemed like I would be cheating. If I'm having that guest on, I should know what it is. And then what I do is it's ego. I take the things that are interesting to me and I tell them, hey, this is what you wrote, but I find this very interesting. And therefore, it automatically gets right into the thing. It's never all those other types of questions that really the publicists basically give you the sheet and you can just read the talking points. I've never had one of those. Never used
you're
those.
already a winner because, first of all, and we experienced this on our show, Weezy is meticulous about reading every book. I try to, but I can't get through them all. But first of all, the guest is more comfortable. When they understand that you took the interest to read the book, they love that. And so the Larry King thing may be on a subconscious level, well, I'm the audience and I just want to be inquisitive about it. But when the guest finds out that you took time to learn the material, they love that. And it's an easier interview.
And in fact, Larry King asked to come on my show.
Wow.
And I said to him, literally, I said, why would you even want to come on my little PBS show? Because you're Larry King. You're on CNN. And I'm not going to try to imitate Larry King, but it was because Nancy Reagan said, you got to go on this guy's show. And he said, why? He says, because he'll be the only one that'll get you and read the book. So it was, and that's that was it. And as I said, it's not just reading the book, but it's how I put my spin on the material. And that's what I do. So therefore, even if you don't have a book, like neither of you guys are going to have a book, but I'm going to put.
How do you know I'm not going to have a book?
I have a book.
You better give it to me because you're coming on in 2 days. By the way.
Oh, you mean? I see what you're saying.
You see, so, but I will find out things that interest me about you.
Right.
And like, for instance, listening to all of your podcasts for the last, gosh knows how long I've been.
I think you're ready.
I'm ready. But so that's how I do it. And that's the enjoyment I get out of it.
We have found that if you show an interest in the material, it really puts the guest at ease, and they love it.
Yeah, well, that's what you guys do so beautiful here, and that's why we're doing this together, even because we share a certain sensibility. Sometimes when I listen to you, I go, that's how I would approach things. So again, I wish you were a business person so you could get us all money, Louise. Come on, Weezy. Fritz, we're already ruling you out.
I'm clueless. Good. I should.
Well, maybe there's a business person listening.
Maybe so.
Yes, we could all use
We can make you a lot of money.
Before we leave the topic of my show, because it is all about
I don't
me.
think we're ever leaving that.
Okay. There's just a couple of things that I'm proud of, and there aren't that many people I can commiserate with and be communally proud with, and you're the producer of the show, but was our amazing band. We had a house band that was like an all-star band. Tell them about that.
It was first of all formed by Lawrence Juber, who was the lead guitar player for Paul McCartney and Wings, and he formed the band. He had on, by the way, all of these people live right in this neighborhood. We had on Bruce Gary, who was the drummer for the Knack and the classic sound of My Sharona. He was our drummer. And then we had Da Bassman, Phil Chen, who was the Rod Stewart spaceman for Do You Think I'm Sexy?
And now does the New Doors tour.
Him and John Densmore. In fact, if you listen to the whole thing, we talk about Phil in the podcast even. Just this great guy. And then Lawrence, God bless him, and he is literally one of the legends of guitar.
Yeah.
People know Eric Clapton.
He's a 12-string guitar virtuoso. He's had like 30 albums.
Oh, yeah, but he is truly a master. Mm-hmm. And his wife, Hope, also very creative. And in fact, his daughter is up for...
She's a producer now.
For an Emmy.
Yeah.
She's up for, not an Emmy, a Grammy. Grammy.
They're a big... And his wife, Hope Juber, is the daughter of...
Sherwood
Schwartz, who did,
the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, the Brady Bunch and Gilligan's Island. And
very talented.
Really talented family, and now their daughter is a Grammy winning.
And by the way, Lawrence makes me sick for one reason. Mm-hmm. He's so damn handsome. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh,
he looks a little bit like a Paul McCartney even, but handsomer. I know that sounds funny. And as he gets grayer, he looks handsomer and handsomer.
But he's so dialed into the music industry. We had all these great guest players.
John Mayhall played his harmonic.
Mayhall
played.
Booker T played Booker T. Jones. I have a picture
Robbie
of him.
Krieger of the
Robbie
Doors.
Krieger. And then I can't remember the guy's name, but he was the keyboardist for Bonnie Raitt. What was his name? He sat in with us maybe every other show. I can't remember his name.
That's it. Do you remember?
I don't know if he was the traveling keyboardist, but I'll think of it before we're done here.
Okay, but we had some great sit-in musicians.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Finnegan?
No, I don't think so.
That doesn't sound familiar.
No.
But we did have some. Who were some of the others? There were a few more that we I know who we had. That was so great. The saxophonist for Pink Floyd.
Oh, yeah.
Remember? And he did Harlem Nocturnal.
Right.
With this bass saxophone. Oh, my God. And then we had Herman's Hermit, who did a bit with us. Peter Noon.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah, I love him.
And my co-host was Max Alexander, God rest his soul.
Max.
Yeah.
And Max came up with one of the best bits that probably could have ended up on Saturday Night Live. He played a Scottish weatherman.
Oh, God.
Where he wore, he weighed like 400 pounds, and he wore a kilt, and he'd talk about haggis.
Yeah,
every forecast included haggis.
Well, can I tell a funny story that
Please.
we did? Well, one of the things was at NBC, the censor that we had to show all the material to was blind.
Okay.
Bill something. He was a blind censor. So nothing with words we could ever get around him, but images we could. And he didn't see it, but one of the bits that Fritz would do was he would show the materials that were out that he thought was interesting, little tchotchkes or something like this. And we had, I'll never forget this, we had a Magic Johnson coffee mug, okay, that had a lariat that you could wear around you and carry it along. And Fritz's line was, if he doesn't remember, he goes, and he points down, he goes, "Who wouldn't want a Magic Johnson?" and the place goes up laughing. And before we were a little delay, and Bill, the guy, says, "What is so funny about that?" And I said, "Beats me. They must love Magic Johnson," because he didn't see what Fritz was doing. But
about censors, one night by accident, we posted the show like you do with yours, and we somehow the raw tape, the unedited tape, made it on to broadcast.
Ooh.
Do you remember that night?
No.
Oh, of course you do. And Aaron called me at like 1 o'clock in the morning. He said, "This is the wrong tape."
Yes.
And there was profanity, and it was awful. And don't you remember that?
Oh, I remember the panic. That's all I remember.
Oh my God.
Wow.
But anyway,
well, we're gonna have to.
Thank you for allowing me those memories. Not that that's your entire life, but it was almost mine.
No, come on. It was a beautiful. It was really. We had a camaraderie on that show that was really just beautiful, as I said, because we hired people that I liked. Yeah. But there's a benefit.
We had great
to that.
writers on the show.
Yeah.
Randy Fechter and
Randy was great. Yeah.
But did Fritz ever really piss you off?
Never. Fritz could never piss anybody off.
Give me one
Lion
good
sack.
story.
I can't.
Where he comes in drunk and just railing at all the interns. No.
I could tell you when I took over ABC. I could tell you some. Richard Belzer.
Oh yeah.
Bells. I love the Bells, but he threw two things at my head. He threw a TV
and missed.
Missed. Huh. He threw a TV at my head and the remote control at my head. I had to dodge and duck, But I love him still. He was a great guy and a great talent, But no, Fritz. I don't recall, Fritz. I don't remember you raising your temper.
I was anesthetized at that point.
He's we talk about Ron Howard.
Yeah.
As far as local men go, nationally, Fritz would be one of the nicest men.
A gentleman.
A true gentleman, a mensch, and just a good man. I would be
the nicest in a very specific geographic area. But Max Alexander, and I'm not saying this is a criticism because this is a disease, but Max was narcoleptic.
Oh, yeah.
And we used to have writers' meetings, and Max would nod out during the writers' meetings. Oh. And at first we thought it was boredom, and then we realized it was narcolepsy. He would just go to sleep.
Oh, I'm telling you, we had a narcoleptic cameraman at KLCS TV.
Oh, my God.
And it was my camera that he was on. So I'm not saying who, but he was narcoleptic. And I'll never forget, because as the producer and the host, you have to watch the monitor and you have to watch the guest. You have to do everything, And all of a sudden I see the camera just going up, up, and him going down, down, down. And I do remember, Max, that was... But you know what was funny? But he'd wake up and he'd be right in the middle of it. He'd know where we were. He didn't miss a beat.
Honestly, I'm not criticizing. He was so funny and so naturally funny. And he was Jerry Lewis's favorite stand-up comedian.
I just want to give Max credit for this line because it's been lifted by both large people and skinny people. Max's opening line as he gets on stage, he moves the mic stand and he said, "I just want to make sure you could see me." I've seen large people do it. Yes. I've seen skinny people do it. Yes. It gets a laugh. It's Max's, and you've stolen it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I remember Max. That's when he auditioned for the show. That was how he opened up the audition.
He was one of those guys, and the person who I think does this the most brilliantly is Stephen Wright. But Max was funny with the fewest possible words.
Economy.
It's so funny and just kill you. And that sort of that deadpan hangdog look. Anyway, those are all my memories. Thank you for letting me relive a few of them.
Oh, come on.
All right, Barry.
I'm invited anytime for
Before
that.
we talk about or beg people to review our show, where can people find and review your show?
They can. It's Between the Lines with Barry Kibrick. In fact, all you have to do is put my name in any podcast provider, and you'll find it. It's on iTunes, it's on Spotify, it's on Google, it's on every app. Or you can actually just go to my website, barrykibrick.com, and see all the episodes there.
They're all on YouTube, too.
And they're also all on YouTube. So, they can find them anyway. It's just easier to use my name because I stole Between the Lines. I mean, that's been a name that was just a saying. And then I stuck my name on it. And then if you Google my name, by the way, everyone says, you have to have that. Well, there is no other Barry Kibrick. So it's beautiful. Just Google Barry Kibrick and you'll find all my podcasts and
well, you do a
hopefully
good
you'll
job.
tune in.
You're a great interviewer.
Yes, you really are.
Thank you.
Yes. Go ahead, Fritz.
Well, if you enjoyed this episode of Media Path, it would help us to be more discoverable by potential new listeners. If you leave us a quick review on Apple Podcasts, and if you're new here and this is your first time with us, please check out our back catalog. Most of it has been proclaimed binge-worthy by people who know. We did a whole show about Motown, and just a couple of weeks ago did a show with Mark Miller, whose father was the first white songwriter on the staff at Motown. We did a show about Mark Felt, who was identified just before he died as the famous Deep Throat of Watergate fame. It was a great show. We did a very revealing hour with Michael Reagan, the son of Ronald Reagan. He was so honest and really forthcoming with some very personal stuff. We had a great chat with Weezy's close friend and maybe one of the greatest songwriters in history, Diane Warren. They're all there, so please check those out, and I know you'll find something that will make you happy.
Can I give a plug too real quick?
Please.
For you. When I listen to your guys' podcast, the chemistry that you have brings out the best in every single guest you have, and that's what makes it so special. It's not the guests. It's the chemistry that you two have and how you relate to your guests. I've been enjoying it so much. It's been just a thrill. Thank you, guys.
That's a nice compliment coming from you. Appreciate it.
Really
that.
nice compliment. Thank you so much, Barry. We would love for you to join us online on Instagram and Twitter, where we are at MediaPathPod, and on Facebook, where we are Media Path Podcast. You can find full episodes with all kinds of bonus visual content on our YouTube channel, Media Path Podcast. We would love to know what media you have been enjoying, so you can contact us at our social media or email us at mediapathpodcast@gmail.com. We want to thank our wonderful guest, Barry Kibrick. Our team includes Dina Friedman, Francesco Demanda, John Maddox, Sharon Bellio, Bill Filipiak, Thomas Hubble, Mason Brown, and you. Our theme music is by me and John Maddox. I am Louise Palanker, here with Fritz Coleman and Barry Kibrick, and we will see you along the media path.